Jonesy and Amanda.
Jam Nation.
Well, our next guest has been inspirational in my career. I was a segment producer on the Midday Show when Ray Martin took over the Midday Show. And Ray was the first person who said to me, I think you can do some stories on camera. I owe so much to Ray Martin. Well, this media icon is taking on a topic that not many of us like to discuss, weirdly, considering it's going to happen to all of us, and that's death. He's got a new 3-part series called The Last Goodbye, and our mate joins us now. Hello,
There
Ray.
he is.
Hello, lovely to see you.
He's come to collect that debt.
That's
Ray's here.
They're going to pay for this.
Isn't it funny, though, that is it because we're Anglo-Saxons that people don't like to talk about death? Is it only our culture that doesn't do it?
I think in Australia it is. That's what we discovered. When BBC asked me to do it, I thought, this sounds fun. Also sounds interesting. I knew nothing about it. Di and I had made no plans.
And your wife's name is Di.
That's right. But we're now in what's called, the sociologists call peak death. So if you're a boomer, you're reaching the stage where, within, as I say in the piece, 3 or 4 years, I'm supposed to die. I don't plan on it, but I'm supposed to. So to look at it, why is it almost the last taboo? Why don't we talk about it? What so we ended up looking at Samoan funerals, a 3-day funeral here in which everyone sings beautifully and non-stop, unlike me. And we went and we had a Muslim funeral, which was probably the most beautiful and warmest of.
But they have to
all those
bury them
films.
straight away.
They do, within 24 hours and without a coffin, about one of the few religions or few folk.
You go straight in the ground.
You're wrapped in this beautiful cloth. You bathe. There's a process of 3 times bathing. And in the case of the one we filmed, a Malaysian man about 50, he had died unexpectedly. So he arrived. The wife was there in a headscarf. She was weeping behind this headscarf. The undertaker at the mosque out here is a monster, like a bodybuilder, a monster of a bloke, the most beautiful bloke, Ahmed. And he said to the mum who came in to bathe the body, we bathe with warm water, we have the incense or the smelly stuff. And he said, sister, we'll look after your husband. And in the process of the 2 sons came in and helped bathe the body. The daughters came in the second time round. By the time we'd finished, they were reconciled to it. Mum had stopped crying. They prepared the body, but they wrapped the body in this white cloth. And they made the point that whether you're the prince or the pauper, before Allah, you're equal. And so you get wrapped in the same cloth.
Because most of us would feel very uncomfortable bathing our loved ones' bodies and taking care of the body. And yet that lying in is it called lying in state?
Yeah.
The body in old Irish families used to lie on the kitchen table and everyone would come and say goodbye. It probably helps the healing process.
Well, you see, that's the difference. When I was a kid, my grandmother died when I was about 7. We were up in Gunnedah, and grandmother had just a little timber home there. And my mum and the other women prepared the body, and she was buried on a Sunday. And I remember distinctly, a whole bunch of Irish, Aussie, Catholic kids, and we're in the corner, and so we were expected to come up and just touch grandmother on the forehead as a last goodbye, and we did that without, and we the undertaker of the mosque said the same thing. They encouraged children to come and be there when the body is being washed, all part of the process. And I said, how do the kids react? Little kids, and he said, just like the parents. If the parents cry, they cry. If the parents are stoic, the kids are stoic. And so but that's something we've forgotten from the days when, as I say, my grandmother went. Now it's almost the last taboo. We don't talk about it.
Yes.
We bury them quietly. They're dressed if need be quietly, and then the coffin lid goes on. Whereas the one we did, this wonderful Samoan funeral, a 3-day Samoan funeral out in Liverpool. And so in working class Australia, I thought I knew Australia. I had no idea this went on. So a Samoan family, they're all out from Central Castings. They're all 6 foot wide and 12 foot tall. And so up this suburban street comes the hearse, preceded by the undertaker, who's a very large, elegant Samoan man in a skirt and bare chested with a stave. And slowly the coffin, or the hearse rather, comes up to the house, and I'm sitting with the man's best friend. He'd been killed in an accident at work. He was only about 32. And so a young best friend who was, again, a mammoth man the size of a proverbial brick outhouse, and 2 of his mates were there in skirts and bare-chested. And this stentorian voice, as they stop outside this just suburban house, the voice says in Samoan, we are delivering Michael to your family. You will now have to take care of him till he goes on to the next world. And that runs for about 2 minutes, the monologue, and then the best man, his best mate, gets up and delivers a reply saying, we love Michael, we're going to take care of Michael. So then collectively these huge Samoan men carry the coffin into the lounge room. It's open there. The kids there, he's got 3 small boys who are bouncing, running around mad. They're bouncing off the coffin as though Dad was simply just sitting in the lounge chair.
Right.
And then the women in their beautiful customs were conscious that even as a film crew, we needed to be fed. And so the man's bodies then, we just wanted to be respectful and get out of there. Anyway, they brought us sandwiches and brought us soft drinks and made sure, like you would, a couple of
You
visitors.
guys are all.
Wow.
Have you planned your own funeral?
No, that was part of the reason I did it, because Di and I are in the right age yet. We hadn't talked about, who you want to speak and what music you want, whether you want Bob Dylan or Van Morrison or who you want, etc., and what it would be. And apart from simply saying, look, cremation, I certainly don't want to be buried, we hadn't done anything, so we thought, "Matt, now's the time."
So why not buried over cremation? So I always like the idea of being buried. The cremation scares the hell out of me.
Oh, really?
Which is crazy because you're dead.
They're both pretty violent.
Yeah, it's like buried on the
They're both
ground.
pretty-
Or I like the sea burial at sea. You know, when they wrap you up in a thing and then throw you off a boat. I think that's pretty good.
Well, it's interesting because part of me thinks it's not me. I don't care really what my service is. But I guess if you knew when you were going to die, you'd start to think maybe you do fantasize about who's going to be there and what they're going to say and what the music is.
Well, we had a woman who had cancer, and she died almost the time we were filming. A young mum from the Northern Beaches, and then we had a bloke, a truckie in his 30s from Melbourne who had another cancer who died. It was given 6 months, and so then you talk with people who know that their life has has an ending. And that the guy from Melbourne he wanted to be buried as a Viking warrior. He was one of those guys who went out and did the
Cosplay?
Yeah, and so he was all set up, and we went
wow.
and planned the funeral there. But it was that was interesting because they were both in denial, even though they'd been told that they had a matter of months to live, and they died in the time we were doing it. But that was kind of another couple we had from Balmain, 2 women whose mum and dad had died, and they kept the ashes. And mum at some stage had said, "Look, I'd like to be in the skyrocket. I'd like my ashes to be up the skyrocket." So they figured dad would go along with mum anyway. And so one Saturday night, we went down to near the St George Motorboat Club, and they organised with the aviation people at about 7 minutes past 7, and they all sat there on the grass with their partners and their friends, and they had a drink and had something to eat. And off went the skyrockets, this
And that was it.
spectacular big bang, and mum and
Wow.
dad went out there. And so, but the sidebar to it was that at that particular spot at the St George Motor Club, there was a wedding going on. And the bride came along with her party. I'm sure the skyrockets.
Oh, this is great.
great.
Someone's put fireworks on.
That's
Mr.
life
and
in a
Mrs. Smith.
nutshell, isn't
That
it?
is life.
It is.
Yeah.
We're-
Well-
it's for all of us, that stuff.
It was actually spectacular. My wife's Diane's a keen skyrocket person.
Oh, so you're going to go up in a skyrocket?
I wouldn't be bad.
She's already planning it now.
Well, the producer Ben Jones, his father died unexpectedly last week, and I saw him yesterday, and he was saying that he's bringing the skyrocket man up to Mackay. They're going to.
So there's a
Gonna put it up
skyrocket man now.
There is.
I like
There
it.
is.
Skyrockets in flight. Afternoon delight. Well, I'm quoting a song.
But it's even that is about it's one of those areas because we don't talk about and we don't know. It's the moment someone dies whom you love, you say, "I don't know what to do. I'm I'm traumatized." You do what you have to do. So the end result, it's pretty much run by the undertaking business.
Yes, it's a bit anodyne, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
We know more about how to buy a car than we do how to die.
Yeah.
Wow, you're quite right.
Ray, it's always great to have you in. Ray Martin, The Last Goodbye premieres on Wednesday.
We'll make sure you have Shut Up Your Face.
8:30 on SBS and SBS On Demand. Ray, thank you.
Thanks, Josie. Thanks very much.